Steve Carrington, Palmer Mayor, wanting to take you 5 days into the future for our April 9th, 2024 Palmer City Council meeting. So in my report, I've got a few sites of interest listed at the beginning, and then I wanted to cover some kind of timeline on issues with the library project. And this is basically reviewing some of the things that have happened in the last year with the library at the council meetings. Excuse me. And since I've attended most of the city meetings, here's a little bit of my summary. So back June 27th in 2023, the staff was directed to do an RFP, and they put that out in the spring. So on the June 27th, they brought back a contract and agreement to hire Gary Wolf Architects to do kind of our phase one contract for architectural design services to evaluate alternatives to repair, renovate, and expand or replace the Palmer Public Library and award professional services contract to Wolf Architecture, Inc. So that happened on June 27th. Also on that night, we created a kind of a working group which was made up of staff of the city manager, John Moosey, the development director, Brad Hanson, the library director, Beth Scow, and then myself, Palmer Mayor, to kind of work with Gary Wolf and kind of work through some of the issues on what needs to be done. And so one of the decisions that kind of came out of some of those working meetings for that working group was originally Gary had spec'd out that it should be about 24,000 square feet, which is what the Wasilla Library was built a few years back at. And the library group kind of worked with them and brought it down to 20,000 square feet. That was something that we felt was important to kind of reduce that size to a more moderate level. And then the library working group worked with Gary Wolf regularly from August to January. And then also at that meeting, kind of related, is Cynthia Cartledge, a bond attorney from JDO Law, was explaining about general liability law. And she was explaining that we've done some bonding for like sewer, etc., but that a general liability is a different animal. When you issue these bonds, you're pledging the full faith and credit of your community, and that banks and bond attorneys basically consider the GL bond the Cadillac of bonds because it's got the full support of the city behind it. And here's a quote from what she was saying is, what that means is that you're going to use all available funds that you have in your general funds to pay the debt service, the principal and interest on those bonds. So basically part of what that means is, we will use whatever's in our general fund, which 2/3 of the money income that we have in the general fund is sales tax. So that's, it's kind of an expectation that we will be using sales tax money to help pay back any of those bonds. And from whatever our income is, whether it's property tax, sales tax, etc. And I'd also note that the city of Palmer has a habit and a reputation of researching many financing options, and we do not always use the bonding options that are voted and approved for us. We check out what is available, and we've done other options like USDA has got some interesting loans that we've used with low interest loans that also can be mixed in with a grant, and we explore all the options we can find. And then also we had in July 11th council meeting, there was discussion because that was actually the meeting where the council voted to put on the ballot proposition for the October 3rd, 2023 election. And then that was for the up to $10 million bond. And when the city council was asking the city manager how much would a new library cost, the manager said, well, we don't know, but we know that Wasilla built a new library about 5 years earlier for $18 million, for a 24,000 square foot library. And both of those, I've got links to, I think it's YouTube videos of those meetings. And then in December, Gary Wolf did a preliminary report to the council and was reporting that in August and September they had worked on community engagement and visioning and goal setting. And then in October and November they were working on the programming and the concept design. And December 12th we had a special council meeting where he reported kind of the status of where he was at. And in my report I've also got a link to that packet so people can see what he was, you can see what, from that link you can see the packet for that meeting. And then on January 23rd, Gary Wolf presented the executive summary for the Palmer Library Replacement Public Engagement Programming and Concept Design. So this was all the phase 1 project that he was hired for back in June. And I've got a link to that packet as well. And that's essentially where we're at. You know, these are all sources of what happened in city meetings. So I'm not referencing to what others may have said in social media or newspapers, etc. This is just from our city meetings, official actions, and what has been presented to the city council. Then we've also got agenda highlights for our meeting. We've got regular minutes. We're going to have a report from Mary Jo Parks from the Palmer Museum of History and Art. Their contract has them coming and doing a report about this time of year. We've got a couple public hearings, a grant to purchase wildfire gear for $7,000, purchase a case loader and attachments for $139,000. It would say about $140,000. And there's an action memorandum. The city manager negotiate contract with H5 Construction for essentially $2 million for the Bogard Road booster station. And that's for a booster station which will extend our water services down Bogard Road, and I think part of that goal is to get it down to the colony schools. And then there's also a new business item. Request to direct the city manager to get an estimate from Wolf Architecture to provide architectural drawings of a new library building with building costs being no more than $10 million. And utilizing as much of the existing design elements as possible that was based on the public input. That's from council members Tudor and Moline. And then also we've added that if that estimate's available April 9th, the council may take action on it. Also upcoming, I think attached to my report is a couple support letters. I've got a support letter for the Matsu Senior Services. They're looking at a future housing project they're working on. They've got 5 acres or so behind their senior center there that they're wanting to put in some more senior housing. And then also a support letter for a public safety complex idea. So this has been Steve Carrington, Palmer Mayor, taking you 5 days into the future for the April 9th Palmer City Council meeting.